Man, shalom, Israel. My name is Ratazan Sharyan, representation of Christ and also, and we have a very special guest here with us today. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good. How you doing?
Man, I'm good, man. It's a pleasure to have you here, man. We have Freeway Ricky Ross, the real deal. We ain't dealing with no phonies, right?
No, no doubt, no doubt.
And it's a pleasure to have you, man, and especially to actually sit down and dialogue with the Hebrew Israelites, because you done many interviews and things like that, man, and a lot of people try to talk to you, but just to sit down with the Hebrews is a big thing because we actually represent for our people, and we out here on these streets daily, out here in the communities trying to tell our people the truth about this system and this government.
Right.
And a lot of times we get a lot of flack on it because people don't want to hear this word, you know what I'm saying? People don't want to hear us speaking because they love this system, but we just want to shed some light on the system and dealing with the 80's in the crack era. So, when you read the scriptures in Deuteronomy 28 and 15, it tells us that we will go through certain curses. And we know that crack was like one of the big things that hit our communities hard. Yeah. So just to have you here and to express that is a big thing. So, man, the first thing, man, how was it as a child growing up, man, and, a youth, when you in your day?
Well, I believe I grew up like most young black people here in South Central LA, with just a mother. Right. Most of black families here are single families, homes. So I grew up with a single family. My mom, she's doing the best she could with what she knew and what she had to try to provide for us. And a lot of times, she would be off and I would find myself in the streets, being taught by the streets. With older guys, always looking for that father figure.
Right.
A male is always looking for a father figure to model himself after. Right. Even sometimes we do it unconsciously. Mm-hmm. You may not consciously pick who you modeling yourself after, and you wind up following somebody who you shouldn't necessarily be following.
So with that being said, there were drugs already in the community at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, but my question would be, so, crack cocaine specifically was in the community at that time.
At one time, it wasn't always there. It's been different drugs of choices. In the hood. When I first started finding out about drugs at the time, was PCP was a drug of choice. But cocaine was just starting to surface, with the Richard Pryor incident.
Right.
A few other incidents you would hear about entertainers, using cocaine. So it was just surfacing, but it wasn't prevalent in the neighborhood where everybody was doing it. It wasn't like that.
So what made crack so different? Because we know that it hit our communities like no other.
Yeah,
worse than any other drug, I would presume, dealing with, what happened and everything. It hit us worse than any other drug. So what made crack so addictive and destructive?
Well, one of the things that made crack so much different than other drugs is that they didn't OD off of it.
Oh, okay. Got you.
They could use as much as they wanted, and they could stay high as they wanted.
Right.
And they didn't have to worry about falling out. Going into a coma or nothing like that there. So it gave them an opportunity to get a high that they had never had before, or that you could never experience. Say, for instance, like when I first started, most people were snorting cocaine.
Okay.
But when you snort so much cocaine, it would make your nose bleed. It would kill your membranes in your nose. I don't know if you knew, but quite a few of our entertainers had surgery.
Wow.
Guys like Quincy Jones.
Wow.
Don Cornelius. They had surgery to their nose because their membranes had been messed up. So they had to go in and have surgery to have their nose redone.
Right.
Because they've been snorting so much cocaine that it basically just kills your nose, your membranes in your nose.
So then that's when the people start smoking it.
Right. Then they found out that they could smoke it,
right,
and you didn't get the effect. It didn't mess up your nose. It didn't bother your breathing. You wouldn't start bleeding. I've literally seen people nose just run, just blood just constantly coming out because they had messed up their membranes, and they still wanted to snort.
Wow.
So
because snorting it gives you a different high.
Yeah, kind of.
Then
They say it does, but they say it's kind of the same high. You know, it's still. They say cocaine has an effect on our endorphins like nothing else. You know, it gives your endorphins this happy feeling that amps you up.
Right.
You know, and that's why so many people chase it. And it did the same thing. They say when you snort it, but smoking it was like send it straight to your brain. I think when you snort it, it has to go into your system and then get into your bloodstream. But when they say when you smoke it, it goes straight to your bloodstream.
That's great. So obviously, some type of chemist had to be in a lab conjuring all this stuff up, right?
Yeah. I just really found out, you know, once I got arrested, and I started studying and because I don't know if you know or not, but if you went to jail for crack cocaine, they would give you 100 times worse sentence than if you had powder cocaine.
Wow.
So when we found that out, I started studying to find out what was the differences and why would a person be punished 100 times worse than a person who had one form. I mean, you can't get to rock without powder.
Right. So powder is the original form.
It's the original form. So if you eradicating it, you start with the root. You don't go to the tree and say, you know what, I'm gonna cut all the leaves off the tree and then I'm gonna get rid of it. You know, that ain't how you get rid of it. You say, no, I'm gonna cut the tree at the roots.
Right.
And this tree dead. But they were doing it a different way. They were saying, you know, we're gonna get all the fruit off the tree, and that's gonna kill the tree. You know, that's gonna stop the problem.
Yeah. So you were a youth and you grew up around obviously South Central LA, gang violence. Gang violence before crack, did it get worse when crack hits the way it hit?
Well, you know what? That's a tricky question, you know, because what happened is when guys first started selling crack, it was the first time I saw Bloods and Crips on the same street working together.
Right.
So, in a sense, it stopped the gang banging because they didn't have time to hustle and fight. You know, and you can't really gang bang and stand out on a street corner, you know, selling drugs, and you done went and shot at somebody down the street. Now you're an open target. So, and most of our people not. I mean, we do some dumb stuff, but you know, we ain't no stupid fools and all that. You know, you go shoot at somebody and you come out and stand on the block and sell dope. So I believe in a lot of sense that it eased the gang banging for a while. But what it also did, it has allowed them now to go buy bigger guns. And more sophisticated guns. So that when something happened, the firepower was readily available. Then when they snatched all of the guys who were controlling the drugs off the street, then they put a whole different group in charge who wasn't really thinking about making money. They wanted some money, but that wasn't their objective. Their objective was the gangbang.
Right. So they didn't really care about selling dope.
They didn't really care about selling dope. Their main objective was a gangbang, rob, and cause mayhem.
Now this is before or after you?
This was after they came in. The feds did a sweep, and they just came in. They just took everybody off the streets. All the guys who were controlling the drug market at that time. They just took them all off the street.
So who introduced you to the drug first? Like, how were you first introduced to the drug and then get the idea?
Well, the first time I was really introduced to it when the seed was planted in my mind, because I mean that's really where you start at, where the seed was first planted in the mind. I believe the movie Superfly was the first seed that planted cocaine in my mind. Later on, a friend of mine, Michael McLaurin, who went off to college to play football, he's the first person to show me cocaine. After he showed it to me, and I started working with him, very small level, I went to a teacher at a skill center, and who I was friends with, and then he introduced me to the Nicaraguans.
And this is a teacher.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, you know, he what he did is he explained to me is that all the things that he had, he didn't get them from teaching school.
Wow. Because at that time, I guess crack wasn't looked as a negative thing.
No,
Was
the
it?
entertainers was the only one that were doing it.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
if you was involved with cocaine, you were in the inner circle.
Okay.
You know, the people here in South Central, they wasn't in it was too expensive.
Yeah.
When I started selling cocaine, a gram of cocaine was like $350, something like that.
Man, that's
Yeah, for a gram.
just a gram.
It was expensive.
Wow.
I used to could take a key and make 200,000 off of a key of cocaine.
That's
You know, nothing like. I think right now the guys are probably paying like 28 for a kilo of cocaine. When I first started, I was paying like 70,000.
So that was big market right there. That was big money at that time.
It was big money. It was
Yeah.
big money, and only the you know, doctors, lawyers, you know,
Yeah.
entertainers had the money to afford it. Pimps.
Right. So at that time, CIA, government agencies, that wasn't even in your mind at that time. You
Oh
wasn't
no,
even,
I wasn't. I couldn't think about it. I didn't even know who the CIA was at that time.
Right, right. So how did you started off, a youth in South Central LA. You get the idea, man, I can make some good money off of this.
Well, Superfly gave me that idea.
Superfly gave the idea.
Yeah, he gave me the idea that I could make some money.
Okay.
Not that I could make money selling cocaine, because that never. When I saw the movie, it was just like, wow,
Yeah.
But I never thought that I could be Superfly. I mean, it was something that I desired. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted to be Superfly, but it was like, not
Yeah.
me.
But then soon after, you became the man.
Yeah, well, what I found out later on in life is that once we plant something in our minds are so powerful that it can make things manifest in your life to bring those things to fruition. One of those sayings is that you have to be careful what you ask for.
Right.
So I understand that now.
Right. What you perceive, you can achieve.
Absolutely.
In a sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that happened. What you was talking about, the gang violence. These guys had in their mind mayhem and murder, behind these videos, because they took videos and then put them out there with us gang banging and, the NWAs, and the Dr. Dre's and all them, how they were gang bangers. They were promoting gang banging on videos and in music. So these young kids get that idea and they manifest it.
Right. So the music in our communities plays a big, huge part in entertainment.
All that comes into play. Just like how the movie dropped the seed on us. The movie Superfly come out, and the next thing you know, cocaine show up in the community. Don't it seem
ironic,
like,
ain't it? Isn't it?
I mean, it's just like, huh?
Yeah.
You show us a black man who I mean, for the first time in my life, I had never seen. I'm from the South, where my uncles used to tell young white guys Mr. and Mrs. You know what I'm saying? They were submissive to white.
Right.
And then you put a black guy on TV,
right,
on the big screen movie, and he dominates the white man.
So no coincidence. You don't believe, that
I used to didn't think that was the case. But after I had to sit back in my cell, and I'm like, they plant the seed in your mind, and now your mind, because I didn't know how the mind worked. I was a 19-year-old illiterate, had never read a book, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Couldn't write. Only reason I went to school was to play tennis, so I never used my mind to think on that level before.
Right. And that's pretty amazing, because then you have to think back. Let's talk about the system now. So what is your view on the system?
Well, the system definitely failed. It definitely failed me. I mean, but the school system was never intended for me to flourish and show my skills. This system is built to muffle you down, to keep you submissive to the system. It don't want nobody to come up to to override the system.
So basically, and this is a beautiful thing because we out on them corners every Saturday. We on them corners trying to tell our people the system is not for you. So to get an outside source who is really connected, you know, in a sense that you would play a role in the drugs, it's really amazing to hear it from you, you know. And you know, that's why, you know, we brought you here, man, and it's a beautiful thing. Also too, you know, so you're going through life, you know, you start selling it, right? Let's just fast forward a little bit. You're selling it, you making money. How much money were you making?
At the height of my career, I had days I do $3 million, a little better than $3 million in one day.
And what kind of, you know, what does that do to you when you're making that type of money?
Oh, it gives you a sensation of power and accomplishment, you know, because in America, you know, everything is judged. Dollars is your judgment. That's how you can judge of how well you've been doing in whatever it is that you've been doing, by how many dollars you've accumulated.
Right. So you're making this money, right? You're at the top of the game. You know, what happens? How did you get brought down? What happened?
Danilo Blandone, who was also my supplier, he had got busted and agreed to cooperate with the feds, and they wanted him to get me.
So he wasn't originally a part of the feds or the
well,
CIA?
he was part of the Iran-Contras.
Okay.
From the beginning.
Right.
That's how he got over to this country. Because they overthrew his country. They overthrew their government, the Somoza regime, the Sandinistas, who was backed by Russia, overthrew their regime. So now Russia people took over. The Sandinistas took over the country. So all of Somoza people had to flee the country because they may be prosecuted for whatever type of crimes that they were doing. In the midst of that, Congress cut off the money. Told Ronald Reagan and George Bush they could no longer give the Contras money because the Contras over there was doing some heinous crimes, they say.
Wow.
You know,
so they
chopping off nuns' heads and you know, raping
some
babies.
real sick stuff.
Yeah, some sick stuff. So Congress said that we don't want to be involved with those people. You know.
But Bush and Reagan had a different mindset.
Well, Bush and Reagan felt that if they lost Nicaragua, because they'd already lost Cuba to Russia, you know, and they had the missiles over, and it's crazy. This guy had put this whole little thing together, man, and laid it out.
Are you speaking of Gary Webb?
No, it's another guy.
Oh, another guy.
After Gary Webb had put the Bay of Pigs.
What's this guy's name?
Man,
if you
I don't
can
even remember
think
the
of his
guy's name.
Okay.
Cause I meet so many people, you know, going through this life. You
so
know?
when you got taken down, right? They took you down, blamed everything on you.
They wanted it to be me. You know, they wanted the whole. I mean, even Gary Webb's story. They tried. I was just learning how to read and write, and they wanted me to be the author of Gary Webb's story.
Wow.
Because it would have been easier to discredit South Central drug dealing gangbangers. They try to put, you know, they always try to put gangbanging on us. And you black and you get in some trouble, you a gangbanger automatically, you know, because it's more sensational, you know. Gang member, drug dealer. So,
and everybody just believes whatever the media says. Nobody questions nothing. And this is exactly what we try to tell our people, but we're so killed and destroyed mentally that we can't even think for ourselves.
Man, I had to fight hard to get them not to put gang member on my paperwork.
Wow, and you wasn't even necessarily
never
a
gang
bang.
I ain't never, you know, never threw up a set, never wore the colors because I was wearing them for that cause. Totally the opposite, you know. I'm like, man, we got to work together. Why we fighting with each other? So when I get to prison and go into court, then I'm like, why y'all keep want to put this title on me that don't fit me? You know, nowhere in my jacket do you have any gangbanging. I don't have any tattoos. You know, I don't represent a set. You never heard me say I was from a set. So anyway,
and this is exactly what the scriptures talk about. You know, when you read in Psalms 83 how it says he would deal with us basically deceitfully. and come at us in a tricky manner to get us to fall victim and fall away from our God. And this is why it's very important for us to go back. We got to go back to that book, you know. That's why, you know, we have to educate ourselves on this knowledge, man, because that's crazy. That just confirms everything.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that they tried to discredit your name the way they tried to do. You know, not saying necessarily crack was a good thing, but they tried to really just pin the whole thing on you. Was Blandon, did he ever receive any jail time?
Yeah, he did 28 months.
28 months?
Tons, yeah, for being one of the biggest cocaine dealers in the history of the country. He did 28 months, and then they got young black guys. Man, my first cellie was 18 years old.
Wow.
18. He had just turned 18. They arrested him, I think, 2 weeks after his 18th birthday. He had 54 grams. Because it was crack, they gave that kid 20 years in prison.
20 years in prison.
20 years in prison.
So the war on drugs, right? What is your outtake on the war on drugs? Was it really a war on drugs?
No.
Or was it a war on blacks and Latinos in the community?
I believe it was a war at first on blacks, and then Latinos later on got caught up in it. I believe that the cocaine served a double purpose for them.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed them to raise money to fight the war.
Mm-hmm.
Then it also allowed them to get the undesirables off the street and put them into these camps where they would have to go in and work for, say for instance, a job that somebody on the street would get $17, $18 an hour for, and we're in prison, you get a quarter an hour.
Wow.
To work that same job.
Wow. So they just making all profit.
And they won't give you that job on the street, but in prison, they got that job for you.
Right. So it was literally just a scheme to fund the war and literally just to take our people down and make money.
No doubt.
Make money. And so what do you say about a system like America? What do you believe? How do you feel about America? Knowing that the government stills allow it to go on. Because obviously, you know, we still have crack in the streets. You know, we still have different drugs in the streets.
Heroin.
You know, heroin. Yeah.
On the rise.
My uncle, he overdosed off of heroin. You know, so it's all these things are still in the street. You know, so obviously America is still allowing this and turning a blind eye to it.
Absolutely. Well, I believe they're allowing it.
Right.
You know, they say with the technology they have now is so advanced that if they really wanted to, you know, they could eradicate it. I mean, just take for Afghanistan, for instance. You know, the young brother who say was over there, we was just talking in the back. When the Taliban ran Afghanistan, there was no heroin coming from Afghanistan.
Wow.
But since America has taken over Afghanistan now, 75% of the heroin that's getting into this country is coming from Afghanistan.
Wow. So who's the real terrorist?
I don't know.
I mean, you know, that's something you just really got to analyze. You know, this terrorist, that. Well, terrorists, who's the real terror? Who's terrorizing?
Yeah.
You know, because they're literally going into other places in the world, getting plants and things like that and turning it in these labs and using it as a type of chemical warfare to literally eradicate us. You know, because we're still suffering for these things. So I want to just touch on a little bit, and then I'm going to open up. I know certain brothers have certain questions they want to ask, too. Just for the sake of time, I just want to let them go ahead and share some stuff, too.
No doubt.
But also, I did want to ask you about Gary Webb and your first encounter with him. And how did you feel when he brought and laid all of this to the table to you?
Well, when I met Gary when I was in prison, he came down to my cell and visited me. I didn't believe his story. You know, when
So you didn't even believe him?
No. I'm like, how could I be involved with the CIA? Come on, stop it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, and then they tried to say that I was the one who wrote this. You know, I'm the one who gave him all his information. So that's how our relationship started out. But we gradually built a friendship. You know, because he came and visited me at a time that I was kind of at my low. You know, no friends. Everybody, you know, when they give you that life sentence, everybody abandon you.
Wow.
You
All
know.
your friends, all your people selling with you just disappeared out the blue, huh?
Yeah, everybody. And I kind of understand, too, why somebody who was selling drugs would disappear if you in jail, because they don't know if you're going to tell on them.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
most people, you know, I mean, a lot of people tell on their friends. So I kind of understand why that happens. Um, but that's the situation. You know, when you go through that, you're gonna find yourself by yourself with yourself.
So Gary came, and he's, coming to you, and he becomes like a friend of yours because you're at your lowest point, and he brings this to you.
And we start talking about
Uh-huh.
everything, the CIA and this, and then I started reading books about it. What was going on with Iran. Because Iran was part of the Contra. The Contra thing too. When they took the hostages over there, then they took that money and gave the money to the Contras, and the Contras took the money and bought drugs. So it was all like tied in. So I just really start investigating all that stuff. Just trying to link everything in, because people start Oliver North.
Oliver North. Uh-huh.
I'm like, who is that?
Yeah.
What do you got to do with me?
What do you know about him, Oliver North?
Well, I started studying. When I was there. So I found out that he was the colonel over Nicaragua. He was one of the ones at one time, I believe, used to fly the planes, if I'm not correct, or he ordered the planes to be flown in and out. So and he was the guy who was willing to take the fall to keep George Bush and Ronald Reagan out of it. I mean, he was a real soldier.
So how much jail time did he receive?
No, he didn't get any jail time. What happened is when he got indicted, George Bush Sr. won presidency. So he pardoned him before there was ever a trial, or he was never even allowed to go to trial.
Wow.
If he went to trial, a lot of stuff probably would have came out.
Right.
But if you get a presidential pardon, then it all goes away.
Wow. And I just really, that really like sits home with me. That's amazing that they can know for a fact this guy was one of the biggest drug traffickers, bringing drugs in, and nothing happens to him, and all the blame is put on you. And I believe you're supposed to get life in prison, right?
I had life in prison. I did.
Yeah. And so why did they reduce your sentence?
Well, some of the ways that they charged me wasn't correct, and I taught myself to read and write, and I really started digging in the law books, and I found some loopholes that they had missed.
Wow. So back to Gary Webb. So he brings all of this to you. How did he get his information? How did he find out his information?
Going through archives and going to Nicaragua, and just being a reporter. What they called him, he was an investigative reporter. Investigators are people who look for clues and
Right.
put pieces together and
Yes.
try to draw this picture. And that's what he did. He went around and talked to so many, and that's why he talked to me, to get another piece of his puzzle. He wanted to have his puzzle from the streets to the White House.
To the White House. Wow.
Yeah, so that's what he did.
Yeah.
Went to Nicaragua, talked to Norman Esses, tried to talk to Blandon.
He wasn't able to talk to Blandon.
No,
huh?
Blandon wouldn't talk to him.
North obviously wouldn't talk to him. Oliver North.
No, he wouldn't talk either.
Uh-huh.
I think he was running for senator or something then.
Wow. One of the biggest drug traffickers running for senator, right?
Yeah.
This is America.
Only in
This is
America.
America.
Only in America.
This is crazy. This is the place that we call home. We fight for tooth and nail, and this place has done nothing but wrong to us since we got here.
No doubt.
And that's crazy. So, real quick, his death, Gary Webb's death. What do you think? Do you think he murdered himself? You think he committed suicide?
Well, it's hard to say, without seeing the investigation of it. But to me, it seems kind of hard for somebody to be able to shoot themselves in the head twice. I mean, it seems tough. But they had doctors who said that it could happen.
They probably paid the doctors off.
They could have. I mean,
it's America.
We
man.
already know.
It's America.
We already know. They'll make you look like a gang member when you never gang bang.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised, but I really couldn't say that he didn't shoot himself in the head twice.
But just thinking logically about it.
But logically, I don't believe it happened.
Yeah.
But I couldn't make an opinion on it without having some some facts behind it. You know, I can just give you my
Opinion.
simple, humble opinion. You know, and I don't believe that. I've never heard nobody shoot themselves in the head twice before.
I've never heard that either. I've researched it and read about him, and it's just crazy to me. Why would he even consider even killing himself? You know, but at this time,
well, you know, they took his job, and they had been, you know, they had been running him around, you know, for him to be a closet winning writer, reporter, investigator. He couldn't get a job.
Wow. So he was shut down completely.
Yeah, they shut him down. They're like, you ain't writing no more. You drop this one here on, and then, you know, the thing about it was so cold. His story was the first story that a major newspaper ever dropped on the internet.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff happened with that article. It was the first time that blacks went to the internet in droves.
Wow.
And had it not been for the internet, they would have smothered the story. You know, the story never would have got out. But the internet was being tried in that form for the first time.
Wow.
So
and he utilized it and got that out there.
Yeah.
And that they came down hard on him.
Yeah, they pulled the story out their newspaper, out the print ads. But you know, once it's on the internet, you can't pull it back.
Nope.
You know, too many people got it, and it just kept like circulating and circulating.
Mm-hmm. That's the will of the Most High. He put it out there. He's showing you your enemy. Yeah. You know, he's showing you who your enemy is. So the other guy, what do you know about him? The other guy that sort of after Gary Webb came to you, is he still around?
Yeah. This guy, he was from Israel.
Israeli? He was an Israeli?
He's an Israeli. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Matter of fact, he was one of like one of they secret guys who do all their investigation for they like one of their top. He was one of their top guys.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of their top guys. And he just tied all this stuff in, man, with the different presidents that had their hand in it. And
so he had more information.
Yeah, he had more information.
Can you share some of it, or?
He was just showing how, like I said, with the Bay of Pigs, with Castro and Cuba, the Iran-Contras, Iran hostage. You know, no, he talked about that. I don't remember a lot more details about it, but he was just showing how all of this was still tied in, and how these presidents were so focused on communism that they didn't mind sacrificing the lower.
Yeah,
lower. Exactly.
Yeah, so man,
for the good, you know, you give up a few for the good of the country.
Right, that's their motto. But it seems like we always the ones getting, you know, and you know, with police brutality and everything still happening, and you know, obviously. But at this time, I would like to open it up. If any brothers have any questions or comments they want to go ahead and ask my brother here.
Oh, shalom, Brother Rick, man. Glad you was able to come here, man, share and break bread with us.
Salam.
Question about the prison industrial complex, man, and your thoughts about that, the prison profit.
Well, I think that it's crazy to allow private industry to capitalize off of crime, because that's really what they're doing. To allow a judge to own stock in the company that he has to send people to as punishment for the people. Because now it could not just be that he's doing it for the people, but now he could be doing it to line his pockets, because his shares is directly tied to how many bodies are put in those prisons. It was about a year ago. It was an article that one of my partners had gave me, and in that article was talking about this corporation was suing the state for not giving them the bodies that they had promised. You know, they had promised them when they built the prison a certain amount of bodies.
That's wild.
And
that's wild.
The body count wasn't what they had promised them. Because if you promised me so many bodies, wild. I'm counting $45,000 a head. I want my $45,000 for each head. Now, if I got some empty beds or some empty floor space, because
Wow.
most of the time that's what it is, and you didn't do what you say you was gonna do, then we got issues.
In other words, we need more people to go to jail. We need
Exactly.
to fill these jail houses. If we don't fill these jail houses and get a certain amount of numbers in these filling these beds, we got problems.
Oh, no doubt.
So that's a conspiracy in itself. So a lot of false incarcerations and things like that, that's all set up by the man himself.
No doubt.
Wow. Any other comment? That's wild.
What's going on, man? Pleasure.
Likewise.
Pleasure. Man, I actually have a couple of questions, but one question right now. As far as the socialization of blacks and Hispanics today, with everything that's happening, we see how we tend to move in the society. Music, hip hop. We know about the quote unquote other Rick Ross.
No
right?
doubt.
Rick
No doubt.
Ross.
But what's being perpetuated through the music is this, this lifestyle, of quick money, criminalization, doing things in order to basically put yourself on a certain level. What are your thoughts about that? As far as whether or not it's poisoning the fabric of our community, and what do you think are some solutions that can be done, even in respect to that particular individual who didn't even live the lifestyle, right? And he's taking somebody that you personified some time ago, and he's continuing to perpetuate this and really destroy our people. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's all tied in together. I think that, I don't think I know. They've studied music. They understand the effect of music on the human, not only the mind, but the body, because our heart beats with the rhythm of a drum. And music has a special effect over you. Like a lot of us don't even understand, but they've studied music and they understand that. They understand that music and lyrics can sink into your subconscious mind and can get you to act out in a certain way that you wasn't even intending to do. Even myself, I find myself, because I try not to listen to the radio, but I find myself being in the car and, one of those rap songs come on and my whole intensity tightens up. I start driving the car harder. You know what I'm saying? And I'm feeling it.
Uh-huh.
I'm just feeling it.
Yeah.
And I know that if it can do it to me, who's consciously trying not to let that happen, I'm fighting against letting them sink into my mind, but I still slip sometime, and it does. Then what about the kid who has not even been taught to be conscious of this music affecting him? How much more do that happen to him? And then they take these guys who, like you said, are not even street guys, who never even been on the street, but because they can make a beat that can get to our kids' rhythm and then portray them as gangsters, I believe that it's all part of the prison complex. Like they said, most of the big labels invested in prisons.
Music labels, you saying?
Music labels.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They invested in.
So the same labels.
Music stopped selling.
Right.
So if you ain't making money off of music, where you gonna make your money at?
Wow.
Well, invest in prisons, and then get the music just to promote the prison complex.
Wow. So they still making they making money for the prisons that they invested in by putting these rappers up to influence us to go to jail, pretty much.
Exactly.
Wow.
Be hard.
Yeah. Be a killer. Be this. Be a
Yeah.
drug.
Be dumb.
Wow.
I mean, they teaching our kids, and then they got guys with college degrees saying that they dumb, saying that they illiterate. They ain't never had nothing. I come from the streets.
Like Lil Wayne, I heard he had a degree or something like that a while back. Rick Ross. the not Rick Ross.
William Roberts.
Yeah, what's his name?
William Roberts.
William Roberts. What about him? How you feel about him, man? When you heard there was somebody out there perpetrating.
I mean, it's like two ways. You know, it's kind of insulting, but it's also kind of flattering that somebody felt enough about you to name themselves after you. You know, I told somebody this before. It would be like if a woman come up to you and she, you know, she wants to show you how much she appreciates you and respects you, and then she said, "I'm gonna name my son after you."
Yeah, there you go.
Not after his daddy, but after you. I mean, that's saying a lot. So to have a guy do the same thing, it shows a lot of respect. My problem was is that he didn't come to me and, you know, and say, "Look, man, this is why I named myself after you. I love you. I want to be like you."
Maybe it wasn't him that had the idea.
Let's work this together.
Yes,
you know,
it's true.
let's sit down and put our heads together. Maybe it wasn't his idea.
Yeah, maybe because, you know, they give them their images.
Because, you know, Universal sent 15 lawyers in there when I was trying to stop him from using my name.
Wow.
Yeah, they had like 15 lawyers. They said they spent 100. They said they spent $1.5 million.
Message. So they
to
stop you from stopping him from using your
my
name.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Any other questions from the brothers?
Again, we thank you again. I just want to go back to the time when you were actually in the streets selling. We know that there's drugs in all races utilize drugs of some sort. What information or what kind of put your antennas up to say that the drugs that was placed in our communities was more strategic? Because we see that if you look at, we know people in Beverly Hills use cocaine and all up in the hills of Hollywood, but you don't see the chaos and the mayhem like you see here in this area. What, if you understand what I'm saying, what was
I kind of do. I think I do.
Right. What was the difference between how it was brought and put in our community to where we were destroyed in the situation, whereas to them it's like a casual situation?
Let me see if I can reflect on that a little bit. I was in St. Louis about a year ago, and I was speaking, and we went to a radio station, and me and this other guy was doing an interview together, and they did a survey on like 50 to 75 people, I think it was, that got killed in the last couple months. What they found out, none of the people who had got killed had college degrees. None of them. Almost all of them didn't graduate from high school. So what that told me was that not knowing how to think and not being educated led to death. So when the drugs got to our community, our people couldn't think. They had already been gangbanging because they couldn't think their way out of gangbanging, or they wasn't trying to think their way out of gangbanging. They just jumped into it wholeheartedly and just went along with it. So I don't believe it was just a drug, because like you said, whites use more cocaine than blacks, even though we go to prison more than they do, because it's easier for them to arrest us and get their numbers up and say, "Oh, we doing our job. Look how many we arrested," and that looks good on the books. But that don't stop the drugs from being in the white community. But they're just in a better position to use and sell drugs than we are, and the murder and mayhem comes, in my opinion, for the lack of knowledge.
Hosea 4:6. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. See, it all goes back to that book, you
No
know,
doubt.
and that's why we doing this, to inform our people. So about the gangs, since it was a question brought up, and we've been talking about gangs. What do you think about the gangs? How did gangs start? Do you believe that a government agency helped start gangs in our communities, or what is your view on that?
I don't know.
Because, I think I did a little reading on it, and from like the Black Panthers and how they took the Black Panthers down, actually the gang started off being something as positivity, right?
Absolutely.
To protect us
from.
from.
You say to protect the community.
Yeah. So where did it change?
Where did it
what
go
happened?
wrong?
Where did it start to spiral out of control?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I can remember the first time that I'd ever, and I talked about that in my book.
Mm-hmm.
The first time that I ever heard of a Crip killing a Blood was at Manchester Park. The Bloods and the Crips used to play football all the time at the park. Well, one day, from what I understand, is one got a tooth knocked out. It was a fight. One lost the fight, ran and got a gun and shot the other one.
Wow. So the blood killed the Crip, or
the Crip. I think it was the Crip killed the Blood.
The blood
Yeah.
off of a football game.
Over a football game.
Wow, and that started.
Part of the rival, in one section of the city. But probably something similar started them in other sections. Maybe it was over a girl or whatever. I mean, because we've always had fights, over different things. And kids, kids gonna be kids.
Yeah.
But I think it really got escalated when they started putting these videos of the gang culture on TV and started glamorizing it.
Everybody want to be that now.
Exactly.
Everybody. So in a sense, they kind of capitalized off of our ignorance, in a sense, of us fighting. But if they didn't publicize it and put it on TV for everybody to see and glamorize it, it probably wouldn't have spiraled even further out of control.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in a sense, it's kind of like still, governments probably not probably, but had his hand in it.
No doubt. If they wouldn't, they would tell them they couldn't do it.
And would stop us.
Right.
Because they could stop us if they wanted to. They stopped the Black Panthers. They stopped Malcolm X. But they not stopping the gangs.
No.
Yeah. Any other questions from the brothers?
Once again, Brother Rick, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
You've been through the trenches that many of us have not been through. What is your perspective on where things go from here concerning the black community?
Well, I think what you guys are doing is wonderful, because we all have to keep educating our people. We have to give them the truth, no matter how ugly it may be.
Yeah.
Because our kids, if they find out you lied to them, they're not going to believe you no more.
Mm-hmm.
You become one of them who they can't trust and who they can't believe. So I think it's really important that we be as honest as we can with our kids. And I try to do that with mine. And just try to continually educate them, and don't give up on them because they don't get it the first time. A lot of times we don't get something the first time. So we have to constantly reinforce what we're doing until they pick it up.
Yeah, there we go. And that's what we go ahead, bud.
I got one more question. So it's obvious that you've pretty sure, especially in this day and age, have heard about who most people call the Hebrew Israelites, Black Hebrew Israelites, so on and so forth. And it's becoming a movement that's sweeping the nation, right? All this talk about, blacks, Latinos being the true children of Israel, the true Jews, and also it's also known that more and more those that subscribe to that are becoming, targets, so to speak, and calling ourselves, waking the people up, beginning to educate them on who they are and why things are happening the way they're happening. So I just wanted to get some input from you, from what you know on the movement. What do you think about it? What do you think about some of the principal teachings, such as us actually being the descendants of the original chosen people, and then I guess along with that, how fruitful do you think the movement will be?
I first came into contact with the Israelites in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a vegan. I don't eat any meat, any animal product, and so I'm always looking for restaurants that cater to that. And then I stumbled upon this black-owned restaurant that served vegan food. So I would be going to this restaurant every day, and then I started talking to them, and we befriended each other, and they started telling me more and more about the movement. I noticed that they had a lot of young people in the restaurant working, a lot of young black people, and I was even privileged of sometimes being there, and I could see the people when they come in, how the condition that they be in, and then I could see the condition that they started to conform them to, young ladies who, could have been doing anything, stripping maybe. And then the next thing you know, she's wearing all white and, got her head tied up and she's working now. So just to see that, for me, showed me a lot, that they're reaching out to the community and trying to pull the community up. So, and we even talked about me coming over to Israel too. They wanted, I don't know, eventually we'd probably do it. I think they said like in June or something, June or July, something like that. They have some big thing over in Israel, and they wanted me to come over and maybe even speak. So we've gotten to be pretty tight. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a juice board right now because they sell vegan juices and smoothies and ice creams and stuff like that, and I'm trying to do the same thing here in LA that they were doing right there. So I have some ties with them. I haven't really dug in to find out everything that's going on with it, but just on the surface, I think it's wonderful that our people is reaching back. People who figured things out are now reaching back and giving this information to other people, because that's really where our people suffer, because they don't have the information to get them through this world.
And that's need the mic.
And I'm speaking, I guess, a third person, but have you considered yourself to possibly be the true Jew?
I haven't. I don't know. I work kind of funny, I guess. I just want to be the best person that I can, and help as many people as I can. No matter, where I'm from, or I don't know how to say that, but I just want to, work and help my people. It can be through Jewism or it don't matter. I just want to be of use to the people.
And that's what we, when we talking about, the contribution that you're giving back, which is beautiful, giving back that true knowledge to our people, because, I was born in the 90s, but, that we still suffering from a lot of that, still the same things,
No doubt.
I know one thing, dealing with the Hebrew Israelites and what we stand for is that in order to uplift our people and to get our people out of the conditions that we're in, like you said with the young lady, she could have been stripping on the pole, but now she got her hair tied up, got the modest clothing on, she ain't doing none of that. We have to, and this is what I always tell people, we have to always come back to the law, because like say we revolutionize, right? We come together, we like, what, to hell with the system is garbage. Well, where do we start? What laws do we put in place? How do we organize ourselves? And that's what the Bible brings to us. It brings organization, which I know you subscribe to the scriptures. It brings organization to our people. A lot of the things, like for instance, gang banging wouldn't happen if we subscribed wholeheartedly to it, because it says love your brother.
Right.
So this is why we out here teaching the solution is, at the end, it can defeat crack, it can defeat the government, it can defeat hatred in our body, is the scriptures, because it teaches us how to love each other, it teaches us how to raise money, it teaches us how to deal in business. So this is why, in times, future times, when we come together and we start to realize we're gonna have to revert back to some type of law, you know. And you know, it's a beautiful thing that, you know, you can say, man, I'm dealing with brothers, and brothers is good, you know.
Right.
And that's beautiful when you giving back to your people. And we definitely want, you know, if there's not any other further questions. Okay.
One more real quick. Just want to kind of backtrack on the history with your knowledge of the CIA involvement with the crack epidemic coming to our hoods, right? It's easy for us to say the CIA put dope in the hood, but can you clarify how that happened? Because it wasn't like a CIA agent came and dropped a brick to you and was like, here, go do what you want with this.
Yeah,
I know it's more intricate than that. How did that work out?
I mean, Gary Webb put it in his book. You know, the best. I didn't figure that part out.
Right.
It's not something that I figured out. But the guy that I got my drugs from was a CIA operative.
Right.
So I guess you have to, you know, I guess they say even Gary Webb didn't have a smoking gun, you know, to actually show the CIA giving him the drugs.
Right.
But if somebody's on your payroll and he's selling drugs, and it's your job to stop the drugs from coming into the country, and then you know he's selling drugs, and you have the consciousness enough to go to the Attorney General and ask her, can she change the law where now if you know somebody's selling drugs and you don't stop it, you're committing a crime yourself. That law no longer applies to you, right, because you go to the Attorney General and ask them would they deactivate that law.
Wow.
So what that tells me is that something was going on that the CIA was involved with, or maybe it ain't the smoking gun, you know, but it'll give you the what's the word? The inclination.
Yeah. So basically, you get the assumption, or you understand.
Yeah,
that.
yeah. You get an assumption. You a logical thinking person.
Rationalize. Yeah.
You know, I mean, like with me, they didn't catch me with no drugs. I ain't never been caught with drugs in my hand. But they draw a picture for the jury, and then the jury has to take all of these pieces to this puzzle, and even though some pieces missing, but they have to use their mind to factualize what they believe took place.
Right. So they never. So it's like they had knowledge of the situation. They had people on the payroll that was funneling the drugs, but it wasn't necessarily a CIA agent with the badge and whatever coming in.
Well, we don't know that.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
No, we don't know that. I don't know that.
Right.
You know, I don't think Gary knew that. You know, he didn't know which agent, or if it was an agent. You know, he don't know if Oliver North actually knew they was putting drugs in those planes. He don't absolutely positively know that. Mm-hmm. But you can infer that he knew.
Right.
If one of his CIA agents made a report saying that these guys are selling drugs,
Right.
then Oliver North didn't know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you could say that maybe he didn't know.
But
you know,
the
maybe
chances of him not
maybe
knowing.
it never got to him.
Right.
Maybe the guy did the report and they put on somebody's desk
Mhm.
and it sit on that desk. But it went in the archives.
It's in the archives.
It's in the
nonetheless.
archives.
Yeah.
So you can infer that somebody knew.
And they pardoned it and sanctioned it and let it come over here. Obviously, they had to because, I mean, we in the hood. We ain't have money to go over there and get no drug, no nothing. So it had to be imported by the government to let it cross the borders and things like that. We don't have no jurisdiction.
Well, they know they
in
was
that.
bringing it in on government planes.
Exactly.
They was bringing on Army planes.
Mhm.
They understand that part.
Mhm.
But they don't know, did George Bush know?
Right.
Did Ronald Reagan know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Did they okay that?
Well, then Blandon, right? He spent what, 28 months? You said
Yeah.
28 months, and he got off, right?
He wouldn't talk.
He wouldn't talk, right? So I mean, that lets you know, right there. Just when you think logically about the whole situation. I mean, and then you even said the guy that gave you the drugs, he was under the CIA
Blandon.
Yeah, Blandon. Yeah, he was under
He
the
was a CIA operative.
Right. So he still has some ties with the CIA.
He does.
Yeah. So that's a big thing.
I
So,
mean, under the conspiracy laws, that they could have been tried with conspiracy. You know, not knowing will they have gotten convicted. You never know. You know, it's according to who your jury is. You know, if they'd have went in front of a bunch of black people who had been convicted of conspiracy, they probably would have got convicted of conspiracy.
right.
Because, you know, we know what it takes to prove a conspiracy.
Yeah.
You know, if I do an overt act, meaning that if I let you use my car and you going out to commit a crime, and I know you're going to commit that crime, then I get the overt act for allowing you to use my car as if I was you.
Right. There you go. So I just got one more question for you. Do you vote?
I'm going to vote this year.
You gonna vote?
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. I just want to know, like, why? Why do you? I mean, because obviously we know that the higher ups, they all work together. I mean, the system and politics and things like that. I call it politics, actually. You know, we know that they're not really for our best interests. You
That's
know,
true. I agree.
And so my thing is, you know, why not put who we want up over in charge of us instead of voting for the people that constantly, like Hillary Clinton? If you vote for her, you know, I think the Clintons, you know, they did the three strike law, right?
No,
I think
no,
it was
no,
it Reagan did it, but wasn't
Clinton took
Clinton-
away the 2255.
okay, yeah, and way more black people
He did,
filled them
went to
prisons
jail
up.
when he was there.
Right, and-
I agree.
And so my thing is, you know, as far as the system, if we're ever going to beat the system, I believe that we have to come out of the system wholeheartedly. What do you feel about that?
Well, I believe in trying to take the system over.
Okay, I see.
You know, to try to take the system and make the system work for you. And that's my goal, is to take the system over little by little.
Got a large job on your hands, my brother.
I already know.
Yeah,
I already know.
because they got their system
Our
sold
people
up.
need it, though.
Yeah, they do.
We
They
gotta do something, because they killing us. They
I believe-
dumbing us down.
I believe we got to create our own system. That's how I feel about it, you know, under the guidelines of the principles of the law, you know, that we
Right.
have. But you know what? It's a beautiful thing. Any other questions, brothers? No other questions? That's it. You know, it was a beautiful thing. Also, too, your book.
Oh yeah,
Your book, and
Y'all can
also
go.
too, where we can, you know, if you got a website or all of that good stuff, where can we?
The website is freewayrickyross.com. You can get the book there, my T-shirts, some of my other merchandise that I'm selling. Also, you can get me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Freeway Rick Ross. I guess that's it.
Yeah. So we'll get all that information, and we'll put it out to the people. If you guys want any more information about the Israelites and who we are, and you know, it was a pleasure to have my brother.
Glad to be here.
Man.
Thank y'all.
Yeah.